Hello, book friend, and thanks for joining me. When I was a kid, I started this stamp collection. I kept it up for quite a number of years. And, I was kind of a general stamp collector. I didn't really specialize in any sort of type of stamp. It was just sort of any stamps that I came along. My relatives all saved me the stamps that they got. And then, I bought them sometimes. You could get like bulk buying. And I just thought it was fascinating going through the stamp collection or going through the stamps. I get this big bulk of 500 stamps in a bulk and go through them, and I just thought that was so interesting and fun. But there's different ways to stamp collecting, right? A lot of people are specialists or they're more specialists, like they only collect for example, commemorative stamps, or they collect stamps from a certain era or a certain country. But I never did that. I was always really a generalist, and I was just sort of interested to go through all of the stamps and, just sort of see what I could find, see what all was in there. And I think that really, really speaks to my personality, because I think that also translates over into my reading style, where I am a generalist when it comes to reading. I don't really ever get focused on one genre or one type of book or one author. I've tried over the years to become a little more specialist, but I always seem to just default back to being a generalist. That seems to just be my personality. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because I don't think there's a right way or wrong way to read. Although I have often admired those who are able to focus in a certain area of reading, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that here in a bit. But over the years, I've come to accept myself as you're just going to be basically a reading generalist, almost a reading anarchist. I don't necessarily only read fiction or nonfiction. I don't read it, and within nonfiction, it's not just history. It's not just So I'm a generalist. If you look back through my channel, you'll actually see this pretty evidenced, I think, because I don't have if you look at all the chats I've done, and I've done a couple of hundred of them by now, and so if you look at those, you will see that I have a few authors that I have read multiple works of: Hermann Hesse, Haruki Murakami, the Boris and Arkady Strugatsky brothers, the Strugatsky brothers in science fiction. I've read quite a number of their works, but even that, I haven't read all of their works. But I am kind of trying to work my way through that, and that's about as specialist as I've gotten. I also did finish the Dune series by Frank Herbert, at least the Frank Herbert 6 novels from the Frank Herbert Dune series, the original 6. But as far as even finishing out series, I haven't been that good at it, because I'm just such a generalist. And this really came to how I recently completed this course, on the great courses that you can watch, those streaming courses, and I just finished one called Mystery and Suspense Fiction, which was all about the construction and the history of that genre. And I was just fascinated by it, and I since put several of those works on my reading list for this year. But I was talking to a friend of mine who reads this genre a lot, and I knew that she did, and she knew all of these authors, and she knew the works that were mentioned and things like that. And I was just like so impressed, because she had this knowledge, because she's focused kind of more in that genre as far as reading, so she has more experience in it. And me being a generalist, I typically, what do they say? What does that saying go? Master of none. I don't remember exactly how that saying goes, but that master of none, I think that sort of fits me. But it works for me, because reading is all about pleasure for me. Granted, I read also to get knowledge, as well as to sort of expand my awareness of the human condition. But at the end of the day, what I'm really reading for is pleasure, and those types of things that give me pleasure, that knowledge that gives me pleasure, or that insight into the human condition gives me pleasure, or sometimes it's just the simple enjoyment of the way that the story was written, or that the adventure that it takes me on. So this is how I sort of engage with reading. So there's a couple of channels I think that really sort of illustrate a specialist sort of outlook, and one of them is called Quinn's Ideas. I'll put a link down in the details below. And Quinn's Ideas focuses on the Dune series by Frank Herbert, and it's all about the Dune series. And so he's multiple videos. He's so like knowledgeable of the series because he's focused so much of his attention on it. And then another one is called Tolkien Lore, and this book is all things Tolkien. So to get that level of knowledge of the Dune series or the Tolkien, the works of Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, requires you to read the works several times, as well as all of the sort of other works by that author that sort of contribute to that knowledge, and then all the other sorts of influences that have influenced that work, or that as movie adaptations and other sorts of adaptations. So those folks just really impress me with their knowledge of the specific works. There is a spectrum, I think, from over here's the generalists and over here are the specialists. I would put me closer, not completely to the over here to the generalist, but pretty far along on this generalist side. And I would put like Quinn's Ideas and Tolkien Lore over here on the specialist side. They definitely know their subject matter there. I would really like to, and I aspire to become a little more focused, and I've been trying to do this for years. I've kind of accepted maybe the fact that I'm not going to become a specialist per se, because it just doesn't seem to be how I roll. But nevertheless, I would like to become a little more intimate as far as like reading some of the same authors and reading more of their works, other than just those few that I've already named. But we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, I just need to follow sort of my intuition as far as what to read next and what to pick up, and that sort of thing. So anyway, that was on my mind, that reading generalist versus reading specialist, and I think that everybody falls somewhere along that line. I think I'm gonna have another discussion maybe in another video about different genres. I tried to put some thought into, like, if I were going to become a specialist, more of a reading specialist, what would I focus on? And I couldn't even do that. I've got to put some more thought into that. Like, would it be science fiction? Would it be history? Nonfiction history? I read a lot of that. Would it be that area? Would it be something like classics or 20th century works? Or, there's lots of different like focuses, just like stamp collecting. Just like you could collect only stamps that are related to the Olympics. You could just decide to read, for example, books from the 1940s, or American books from certain era, maybe 19th century English literature, 19th century Russian literature. Focusing. There's just all sorts of sort of things to really that you could sort of structure your reading around, and I'm going to give some more thought to that. Right now, I don't really have a structure. I wouldn't say, I'm necessarily a reading anarchist, but it is pretty unstructured. And I think that, my channel, for an example of a reading generalist, definitely check out my channel. For an example of reading specialists, you can check out those two that I mentioned, Quinn's Ideas and Tolkien Lore. And some other booktubers, there are booktubers who focus on different things like book prizes, or mysteries, or romances, or these kinds of like specialties that are a little more further along the specialty line than how I read. And I just think it's all good, right? And even though I'm not a reading specialist, I do enjoy those who are, and I learn a lot from them, and I enjoy their work, their content. So I think I will leave this little chat at that, and I may give some more thought to a theoretical list of what my theoretical specialties would be if I were to develop any specialties. So stay tuned for that potential video in the future, and until next time, take care. Bye.